Well, good afternoon, folks, and welcome to our quick panel on data within the hospitality sector, particularly in relation to payments. Really glad that you've been able to join us for this session today. My name's Paul Rogers. I run an organisation called Vendorcom. It brings together all the key players in the merchant payments sector. And of course, hospitality, F&B, is a really key area, and we're here to focus in on that today. Now, I've got the most wonderful panel here with me, so I'll give you the chance to applaud them later when they've given you some really good, juicy stuff to use in your business. Now, before I do that, I'm going to hand over to them just to introduce themselves briefly, and then we're going to hit them with some key questions. So let's start, Hayley.
Hi everyone, lovely to see you. My name is Hayley Henshaw. I am Director of European Partners at FreedomPay. FreedomPay, we are an open payment commerce platform. But interestingly, in the context of today, the payment is the entry point. It's actually the data and the loyalty that sits behind it that is the most important that we'll be talking about later today.
Great. Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Snellock. I'm the founder and CEO of Plays. We've got two quite large venues in London, with third one hopefully opening in the UK later this year, early next year. And my background's kind of in big tech and data, so I guess that's why we're invited.
Thank you. Hi, Alison Hutchinson. I lead a charity organisation called Pennies, which works a lot with the hospitality industry. If you don't know who we are, it's if you're given the opportunity to round up or donate a few pennies when the guests check out. We're the charity behind all of that. I think what will be interesting today when we look at data is actually the insights, who owns the data, if it is customer data, how are you doing it in an ethical way?
Great, thank you. Melinda.
Hi, I'm Melinda Roylett, and I'm the Managing Director for Lloyds Banking Group Merchant Services. So Merchant Services encompasses a range of products: online payments, in-store payments, and embedded finance payments. And so, very excited to be here. Payments is very much a commoditizing industry, and what our retailers and consumers need is, solutions to, help drive footfall and to use data in smarter ways to help them grow their business. So, very excited to be here to talk about that.
Great. Well, what a great panel. And I'm going to stick with you, Melinda, because in an organisation like Lloyds, we hear so much hype about data. It's being held up to be, it's going to give us that single view of the customer. It's the new oil. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing anymore. I don't think it is. But I'm keen to understand, just in a general view from you, is it the data that's important? Is it how you use it? Where is that data, and really, where is it? Where should it be?
Yeah, I think the key is, data is obviously very important, but it's like, what customer problem is it solving, right? For a merchant, if we think about some of the challenges they have, if you think of our retail and hospitality merchants, they're struggling with COVID, bouncing back from that, with inflation, and they're really trying to drive footfall, if it's on their online store or in their shops. And so using data can really help them, target propositions and marketing campaigns and loyalty to driving that footfall and those customers into those, online or in-person stores. So I think that's really important. If you think about it from a small business perspective, how do we help them operate their business more effectively? And so one of the things we've just done at Lloyds is integrate, all of this data they have on, CardNet and how their business is performing, into apps so they can access that 24/7. So I think the data is important, but it's about the applications and how it's used, which actually, make it, that oil type, commodity, right? Like very rare. So.
No, thank you for that. And you've already touched on enough things to keep us busy here all afternoon. So, Alison, from the Pennies perspective, again, you're tapping into data all over the place. Where are you drawing that from?
Yeah, I think for us, data is really interesting. I'm absolutely with yourself. It's actually about the questions and the problems people are trying to solve that's really important. And so when you take it, for example, where we come from, Pennies, we've now got about 40 million transactions in the hospitality industry alone across 3,000 different venues. And so in many ways, being able to say, well, what is behind that? What does good look like? Because I think too often people look internally at their own data, try and solve their own problems, but actually quite a lot of this data is not commercially sensitive. And I think more people are looking at how can you share it and what insights can you get and how can you know the real power and potential. But we can maybe explore that a little bit later.
Certainly will. Now, Tom, you're an operator here. How do you see it being out there on the coalface?
We really wanted to design our data for our purposes. So the key one for us really was that we wanted to understand our customers, but we wanted to improve our operations. So trying to understand that problem and getting that depth, and we realised that there's so much good data coming from so many sources, and if we can get it together in the right way, we can make the correct insights and decisions. But it seems to be like a new world of data at the moment in hospitality, which is quite an exciting place to be.
New world of data, like that one. Now, Hayley, from a data analytics company, a payments company, how do you describe FreedomPay in terms of how you actually start to help in this data channel?
So I think that's a brilliant question, and it's really key to what we do. So it's very easy to talk about data, and it's very easy to say we all have data, but it's how you use it and how you refine it that is the most important thing. Now, I think we're refiners of data. We have access to real life merchant data, and by using that we are able to fully understand the customer journey. We're fully how they're paying for the services, whether it be in the restaurant, in the hotel or in the spa, and we're able to really help our merchants understand how to ensure they get those customers back. It's a very, very crowded marketplace, and we're in a position to be able to help with that.
How difficult is it for you to grab all that data? Because it's not just within your area, you have to pull it in from other areas. How do you find that?
Well, we're one platform, so regardless of who is using, so whether it's a PMS system or a point of sale system or a spa system, we can aggregate all of that data in one holistic view and show our merchants what's happening with their customers.
Great. Now, what I would say is I will be coming out for some questions in a minute, so I'm really keen. If you've got questions, any thoughts, then I'm really keen to give these guys a really hard time with some of your questions. So, but I'm hearing what you're saying, but actually at the end of the day, merchants, whether it's hotels or bars or restaurants, QSL or whatever, they've got such a diverse set of systems, and they're looking around a show like this and saying, I'm just mesmerized. How do I choose the right partner? Now, Alison, I'm going to go to you next on this one, because in integrating what you do in Pennies, you've had to do some of this work up front.
It's certainly true that I think there's the practice, there's the strategy, and there's reality. And I think there's loads of platforms out there, and FreedomPay are one of the real fast-moving ones and fast-growing at the moment. But when you get in underneath it, if I take Pennies, a couple of points. One is, it was really clear to us up front that consumers wanted to be anonymous. They didn't want retailers or charities to follow up and say, thank you for your 25p, here's what I want to do. Now, many people would say, well, that's anonymous, so it's not valuable. And yet actually trying to get the data from merchants so that we can look at something as simple as data conversion is really hard, because it's really hard for a lot of these hospitality venues to be able to get the data, extract it and share it. Now, we found ways of making that much easier. For example, a number of the partners that we're going to be working on with FreedomPay are saying, well, if FreedomPay can provide that data, that's fine, because they don't own the data, it's not commercially sensitive, but thinking more broadly about not how do I bring all this data in and process it, but what's the problem we're trying to solve, which is what we talked about earlier. Where does that root cause of the data be? And then how can I actually take advantage of it? So I think it maybe make people feel a little better that the strategies everyone has of data lakes and everybody having access to every data is just not a reality for the vast majority. But breaking it down and being a bit more open to the partners that can provide and unlock that, I think, is really important.
So, Tom, from your perspective, you've outlined some of the things that you're wanting to achieve in terms of loyalty, new customers, understanding your customers better, and so on. Did you originate all of that because you know your business really well, or were you helped through that whole process by forecasting, data aggregation, partners, people like that? How much of that was you just saying, right, this is what we want, going out to the market and trying to find those partners?
I mean, it's exactly that. It's finding the partners. So we started by starting the customer journey, that the perfect path of what we wanted and what we thought we could get at each point and where we're dropping data. And then we went out and we found the best partners to help deliver that. And getting the technical teams in from the likes of FreedomPay to sit there and talk to our EPOS, to our internet, to our CRM, to everyone, just meant that they agreed the route forward on this. But we were, I was about to say, we were lucky to have the pandemic, but we had 2 years to kind of knuckle down and line up everything. I'm the only one who said good plan.
That was a first.
That was the first. But getting every bit of that data together took so much planning, so much effort, and if it wasn't for internal resource and I guess experience of handling large data sets, I think we'd have given up a long, long time ago. And again, these individual platforms are all brilliant. They just need to be together in places.
Anybody got any questions that you want to ask?
Albert Levet, I'm from Local Data Company. We're one of the UK's most accurate location data companies. So different type of data, what you've got on the panel. But the question is for Tom. In regards to, we've spoken about data kind of from a general level, but can you take us through the customer for Clays and how you would filter through that data in terms of their profile or maybe the type of customer they are and how you're going to reach back out to them and make sure that they come back with their company or with their group or get really involved in what you guys are offering?
If we look at it like a normal customer comes on a Saturday, the first touch point is our online booking system. So they're on our website, they're paying for something there, they're giving an email address and data. We then have them turn up in the venue, they buy things at the bar, which is great, but that's kind of already now separate. So we don't have that as that single customer view of how much they spend. They then go into one of our playing spaces, our kind of concepts based on this gaming, almost like a bowling alley, and they might order and pay for a different method or a different card. They put email addresses in, and you're capturing all these disparate points. But the goal for us really is that if they have not ordered a single alcoholic drink, but they order a lot of the non-alcoholic ones, then we want the CRM system to be going on the back of that, going, do not send them an offer saying buy one get one free beers. We don't want, if they don't order anything meaty, to have a big steak sitting on the front. I'm saying things that we don't have on our menu, but anyway, it's this idea of hitting this point of understanding the customer. And then the final bit that's really key for us is this proof of presence, like knowing how many repeat customers you have. Like we spend a disproportionate amount on marketing, and marketing is all led off our data. So the richness of data leads to better marketing, and same with ops. Knowing when certain people come and order massive bottles of champagne, not saying any names at all, we want to know that we are ordering stock for that, so we keep our par level. So you're really trying to get absolute down to the detail, even if you're not going to use all of it. I don't think I answered your question at all there, did I? Okay.
We've talked about a lot of wider data sources. I'm keen to tap in just for now on the payment data, because we're here as broadly payment-centric panelists. That data is really rich. I've heard it described as A rating, AAA rating data, because you just know it's independent, authoritative, it's been authenticated in many, many different areas. Does that typically form the basis for a lot of the data platforms, or is it location data? Is any one bit of data or area of data more valuable than any of the others? I'll go to you first, Tom.
It feels like data you can trust, if that makes sense. You think of things like fuzzy matching, trying to match email addresses or things like this in a big data lake, shouldn't use that word. You know that you can trust the data coming in. So if we're talking proof of presence, there is only one card with that detail. So you know that if it's tokenized and it's flowing through, it is that card, it is that person. So from my point of view, it is that kind of foundation part of it. But it needs the richness around it, and that's where things like SKU level data really come in really handy. Building it out.
No, I think it's a really important point, and we've seen over the years that when I go back 20 years in the payments industry, and it used to be that the banks had their banking services, they had their issuing services, they had their acquiring services. Now I'm really glad I'm making this example with Melinda on the panel, because there's only really a couple of those organizations left that have got the full stack of banking, issuing and acquiring services. And I think the other key thing is really, and we're seeing it come through really strongly here, is the point of sale solution and the integration with that. So Melinda, I'm really keen to understand from a from a Lloyd's Merchant Services point of view, how you build those connections and how you work within that really rich ecosystem?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I've only been at Lloyd's for 10 months, and when I was going through the process of getting the job, it was like, well, how can this be successful, and how can we really kind of grow this business? And I looked at where Lloyd's was positioned in the market. It's like, well, we're the largest digital bank in the UK. We've got 26 million consumers. That is just like a huge benefit, and connecting that to our merchant footprint, like that's where our competitive advantage really is as a bank. And so I think it's like really tying with data, and the payment data is probably the two things that unite that consumer population and that merchant population. But that's where we're starting to go into RFPs, and that's what we talk about, like which other provider, with the banking reach that we have both on the consumer and merchant side, and with the technology platform that we have with FreedomPay, what other combination of players in the market can bring you the technological advantage with that customer base. And so that's really exciting and something that we're starting to leverage. But I'm always reminded of this, I remember the example about how Walmart in the US did the really smart things with data, and it always is an interesting one. But they pretty much used their various club cards and things to find out that they should really position like nappies near beer, and particularly during the Super Bowl and like football events, because apparently the guys were coming in and buying beer, and then they also had to buy nappies apparently for the people, the women staying at home looking after the kids. And so they found like positioning all that using data was a great way to drive sales. And so that's the kind of like real gritty kind of like problem solving insights that when all the data works really well, you can achieve as a retailer. So yeah,
really useful insights. Anybody else want to come in on that rich data set?
Maybe I'd come in just a little bit and saying absolutely, and building on that from a payments data perspective. I think more and more I find a lot of people in hospitality and in retail are interested in why their guests are coming to them. What is it that really motivates them, and what motivates them to come back? And you would think something like adding a donation wouldn't be that important. But the more people have actually mined that data, we're finding more of our merchants are finding they're stickier customers, they're spending more, they're getting higher NPS, because the value of the customer set they're bringing in relates to the value of that organisation, and it's helped them tweak some of the approaches they will take in a way which wouldn't have happened before, but that's tagging something very different to the fundamental AAA rated payment data, which is more the fact base. So it's just interesting to see how it evolves over time.
Very, very useful insight. Hayley, we're here at a hospitality restaurant show. What are you seeing as being specific to this sector? Is it about customer journey, customer experience? Is it about international travelers? Where are you seeing the specifics that hit this industry more than many of the other merchant sectors?
I actually think it's everything you just said. So I think certainly from a merchant perspective, it is about that customer journey. I think I touched on it earlier. We're in a crowded marketplace. How do you make your customer come back to you? How do you make sure you have the best loyalty scheme for your merchants? We commissioned some data recently with Retail Economics, and it said there will be a surge in wallet payments by 76% in the UK in the next 5 years. Now that includes loyalty. So it's really, really important that we're talking about that. And payment data gives you that really rich AAA data that enables you to really understand that customer journey from beginning to end. And then you can make really good business decisions. So it's not looking at the data to try and tell you a story. It's to look at the data and understand, okay, what do I need to do next to be relevant? And if that's wallet payments, card payments, and loyalty, then you can react on it.
So I've always probably oversimplified this, and probably I'm talking maybe to you, Tom, but I'm happy to get input from others. I've typically simplified this, that most merchants kind of want three things, and we've kind of touched on some of that already. They want lower costs. Like, I don't know any merchant that doesn't want lower costs. Although you can tell that you don't, but you're probably not going to do that sitting next to FreedomPay. But they also want improved customer experience, customer journey, as we've just heard, but they also want new customers. Linked to that is upselling their existing customers. So of those kind of three come four type things, are there any of those that are more important than the others when you're drilling down into and mining that data? Or are they all equal, or do they just vary from time to time?
I mean, I think the point of certainly the first one on cost, it almost, if you believe data has value, then there's an ROI on it. So we would have no problem paying far more if we're getting something for it. And there are certain things out there that cost far more than they should, I think. But this seems like relatively a good area and a good trade-off. I think we picked FreedomPay knowing it wasn't going to be the cheapest for us, but it definitely was going to be the richest. And that's where we think we benefited in quite a number of ways. So cost is the lowest.
And for the others here, are you seeing demand coming through and like headlines saying, yeah, it's got to be lower cost, or we want a better customer experience?
I think it touches one of our big demands that merchants have, which we're very excited to work with FreedomPay to meet this demand, is a connectivity to different types of software. So if you just like look around this whole expo, there's just like so many specialized like vertical points of sale, that are available. If you think of like Toast, or if you think of there's so many different like the Shopify's of the world, and like there's so many different connection points online and in store. And so with FreedomPay, their open platform approach, which is like, if one partner activates an ISV, basically that's activated for the whole ecosystem. And it's like very, very exciting for us, and a big reason why we choose to partner with FreedomPay. So.
Right. And just to folks in the audience, what would you say to them going back to their businesses tomorrow? This is what you've got to do on your business.
I think just like about data, I guess, like let's stick it to that. But just like, really thinking about what problems do your customers have, and how can you solve them with your data?
Right.
I guess I would say is three things. One is you've got to have a data strategy, because actually it's how do you interconnect all those different data elements like the location data and various other elements. That doesn't stop you, number two, getting started with what's your biggest customer commercial problem and how do you fix it. But the third one I would say that I think there's a real big risk growing, is particularly when it relates to consumer data. GDPR feels like it was yesterday's news. It's actually today's news, because you're collecting customer data through, so many different technology types. Customers might not know they have it. So my challenge to us all is, can we remember it is customer data, and we all need to have an ethical strategy, so we're really driving more value for customers and not just bottom line for ourselves.
Great point, Tom.
I think it's the interconnectivity of things. So if you're not confident on data, team up with partners who have done it and done it well. Look at who's working together in proven businesses. If not, you're into a bit of a world of pain. So find them.
Hayley, last word to you.
Thank you. So I think that there's two sides to this. There's the consumer side to this. Myself as a consumer, we are way more savvy than we've ever been, and our expectation and our customer experience is quite high. It is critical that you are listening to what your customers are telling you. From a merchant perspective, you therefore need to partner with the right partner, and of course I'm going to say FreedomPay. Someone that's going to enable you to get that rich data so you can truly understand your customer experience and keep yourself ahead of the curve when it comes to, from a payment perspective, the different kinds of payments that your customers expect to pay in. Because if you don't, then you become irrelevant and they will choose somewhere else. And it's really, really important that you use your payment partner and the data and the loyalty that they have access to help you grow your business.
Those are some really, really great points to wrap things up with. I'm hearing that finding the right partner is really key. I'm also hearing that really understanding your business, to Tom's point, understanding what those perfect journeys look like are really key. Now, I'm sure you've all got quite a few more questions. It's been great to hear from these guys. Guys, I'd like to thank you for those insights. I'm sure if you've got questions, come along to the FreedomPay stand on I-52. There's some cold drinks, Coke, beer. I hope that's been helpful for you today. Thank you for joining us. Really good to see you. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.